All right, we're back and we have a special guest with us today. She started out as one of the UK's brightest competitive prospects representing Great Britain on the international stage. She then pivoted from the spotlight and the pressures of the surf industry to prioritize her own mental health, a decision that's resulted in her returning stronger and more assured of her career path than ever before. Today, she has carved out a whole new lane for herself as one of Europe's premier big wave surfers, becoming the first British woman to ever surf Nazare. Along the way, she's become a mental health advocate and a role model for the next generation, as well as an ambassador for Dry Road. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Laura Crane. Laura, thank you so much for coming on the lineup.
Thank you for having me. That was a great intro.
Yeah, I even got through it in one take. It's pretty good. Where are we talking to you from today? Are you home in the UK? Where are you based?
Yeah, I'm currently at home in North Devon. So yeah, in the UK for a little while.
Okay. And you've had a big 2025. Most of our listeners are familiar with some of your activities, but give us a breakdown. We're here in October. What's the year been like for you, and what's left ahead here in the coming months?
2025 has been full of surprises, I suppose, which is, good and bad. I had an amazing second season in Nazare and just got to, again, surf waves that I will remember forever for sure. Qualifying, obviously, for the WSL contest was a huge part of my season, something that I'd worked towards since, I think the moment I wanted to surf big waves. And then competing finally at the end of the season, we had the day where it all kind of came together. And it was amazing day for me to have got into the comp and to be there with, the world's best, but a bit of a sour ending and end up breaking my ankle. So since kind of the back end of February, it's been lots of rehab on the foot, just kind of like slowing everything down, really kind of just, I think looking back at the last two seasons I'd had and being grateful what I'd achieved and seeing where we wanted to go next.
I think most civilians like myself probably would be breaking bones just looking at Nazare. But for someone like you, can you walk us through exactly what happened out there that led to the injury?
Yeah, for sure. It was not a necessarily huge day at Nazare. It was tricky for sure. There was like a lot of chops. It was hard to find a good wave. Tony and I were kind of searching things out for a little while. I ended up getting a right, which is not something usually at Nazare, being goofy, I would like opt for in the comp, but they were the better waves of the day. And I had one like nice one that kind of just to get comfortable out there. And on my second wave, I ended up just kind of going down the drop. And I did like the first turn, and as I went to do the second turn and kind of turned my back towards the shoreline, I suppose, backwash came and I like just didn't see it at all. And it just sent me absolutely flying. And I got my front foot stuck into the strap and it just kind of did a weird Chinese twist kind of vibe. And a big pop. And I think I knew something bad had happened to it, but I kind of like forgot to take a breath. So it was like this big kerfuffle underwater of just like my foot. And
I'd imagine so much adrenaline's going through you just being out there on the day anyway, that part of your brain is probably like, you're fine. It's not even a flesh wound. Like, you're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what then had me turn around to Tony and say, get on the rope. I've probably got 10 minutes in me and I have to prove I can drive you on a wave today. That was what I'd worked so hard for those seasons before, was just to, in Nazare, to be a tow surfer. If you're not driving, then like you can't help somebody out in need out there, and you can't give people waves when they've given you waves. So for me, it was a big thing that I really wanted to prove, especially as a woman, that I was out there and I could drive. And so then it started to really hurt.
We had Australia's Ryan Callanan on the podcast a while back at this point, but he said something that I thought was pretty profound when it comes to surfing. And he goes, it's so hard to say no to it because it's so fun. Like it's hard to say no to another wave or another session or another surf trip or another contest because it's so fun. And he was talking about it through the context of his knee injuries and saying, I had to train myself to take a break just so I could surf at the level I wanted to. And I think we've seen this in sports, certainly in surfing, when you consider like Mick Fanning's injury and how he returned to it is, sometimes the universe sort of forces us to take a pause. And I'm curious about your own rehabilitation, and obviously frustrating not to be able to do the thing you want, but have there been any kind of like silver linings in terms of like, what you've discovered about yourself or how you've sort of adjusted your approach moving forward because of it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the main thing is definitely to enjoy the journey of where you're trying to get to. I think you hear so many athletes talking about how they, became world champion or whatever, and they just wish they had enjoyed getting there. And that is the fun part. And I really want to be that person that can actually enjoy it and look back and say I had like a really good time this second time round in the surf industry, let's say. So yeah, that's definitely my biggest thing I've taken from it, is to try and enjoy where you're at, which is so hard to do as an athlete or as anyone, I think, probably, but definitely rest. Like, I am for sure somebody who will select a goal and kind of just tyrant my whole life until I get there and I've realized that approach maybe isn't working so well. So yeah, it's just been stripping it back and really trying to listen to my body and what that needs, and trusting that if I take care of that and I listen to that gut instinct a little bit more, then it'll help me in so many other situations. So yeah, just really trying to be a bit slow with everything and take it all in and be proud of the things I've already achieved as well while I'm still in it, rather than always chasing that next kind of thing. But easier said than done. I'm not in the season yet. Let's see how it goes.
And it's tough, whether you're an athlete or just a human being. It's like we've all seen the brochure. We've all had like parents or role models or mentors come to us and say, hey, look, it's a version of like, it's the journey and not the destination. You should appreciate that. But it's like, I think humans are sort of pre-programmed to like, need the hard lesson sometimes. It's like, yeah, I know. And then you have the hard lesson. You're like, oh man, all those people were right the whole time. I needed to take a minute, right? I've actually been speaking to some of your United Kingdom colleagues with, Tom Lowe and Andrew Cotton this year. And one thing I am curious about in terms of being a big wave surfer, and you've lived on kind of both sides of the fence here, so I'm curious if it's changed for you. But being a big wave surfer, when you are fully healthy, like what's your week in and week out training look like? Because obviously, waves are a finite resource. The waves that you surf are even more finite than what we usually surf. So you can't do that all the time. Are you someone that likes to get out in the ocean every single day regardless and try to surf, or are you more in the cross-training camp?
I would love to surf every single day. I'm sadly from the UK. That isn't permitted. Actually, I did surf today and it was super fun, so I'm not going to badmouth my home break. I'm going to give it that credit where it's due today. But I grew up surfing here, and I would say if you're waiting to surf every single day, then it gets frustrating. So I've definitely picked up lots of other hobbies, growing up here, lots of outdoors things like sea swimming and all those things I loved when I was younger. But I love to feel strong. That's something since I was a Grom, I always loved to feel like I was physically strong. And that's something still to this day I'm really passionate about, and also trying to inspire other women that it's cool to be strong and that we're living in this time where actually going and seeing what we can physically achieve is cool as well. So yeah, for me, that's definitely a big part of me as an athlete is the training side. I love the gym. I love to swim. Me and my brother, we train a lot together. We push each other loads. We always have. So training is definitely a big part of it all. We're in a pretty savage little window right now, honestly, just leading up to go to Nazare next week. So it's early morning ice baths, swim sessions, lots of cycling. We're gifted with some of the most savage hills, I think, in the UK down here. So it's made for it.
Now, going to Nazare next week, is that essentially like your winter base of operations? Do you stay there for months on end, or is this just a trip in and out?
Yeah, for the last 3 years, that has been the playground, definitely. The learning playground, definitely. It's been incredible. It's also tropical compared to the UK, so it's such an interesting contrast to see the Brazilians and the Hawaiians there, freezing with like 6 mils on, the thickest boots they can find, and then us lot from this side, we're in shorts and t-shirt, kind of living our tropical dream. So it's for that in itself a huge plus. But no, we're there for pretty much. I'm gonna stay until the end of the waiting period for the contest, obviously, which will be sometime within the next few months, and then hopefully do a few other trips this season. Hopefully to Ireland would be sick. It's a wave, Mullaghmore, that I grew up seeing all the boys in Eski surf, so it'd be sick to get out there with those lot and spend a bit of time there too.
I'm just thinking about it, because you're not the first person to mention kind of basing in Nazare at this time of the year, and that's probably a relatively recent phenomenon, just with the kind of surfing that you guys have been doing there. It must feel a little bit like an Olympic village to a degree, right? Because you get this international group of big wave psychopaths, and they're all just in this town that's otherwise probably pretty sleepy the other months of the year. Like, since you've been doing it for the last few years, has it been like, can you tell us a little bit about, I guess you weren't there 20 years ago, but like, what's your experience been like over the last few years with that kind of community in a relatively small space?
Yeah, it's, I don't know, like Portugal as a whole. I actually moved there when I was 17. When I was like a grom, I was there training and things. So I've spent a good amount of time there, but more like Ericeira ways. And I remember we would go up and surf like a random kind of like 2 meter swell, beach break swell, and it would be empty. Like you wouldn't see anybody in the car park. You could walk straight down from the cliff all the way to the beach, and like it was a sleepy town then. It wasn't even necessarily Nazare back then, but the vibe of that town without the big wave surfing is already such amazing energy. Like it does have this really capturing energy, which I love. And I think just the people, they're so proud of what their town kind of permits, that it's an incredible place. I think the dynamic of Nazare, I've spoken to Cotti. He's obviously been there since the very beginning, and he's always saying how much it's changed, and how he remembers those, real core days when they were just figuring it out. And I could only imagine how special that was. But for me, I know it is just the crazy circus that Nazare is. And, I think if everyone's out there and respectful, then things go pretty smoothly. And if not, then it doesn't take long for someone to figure it out.
You mentioned how important it was for you to be able to hop on the ski and to drive Tony, your team partner out at Nazare. Can you tell us a bit about that relationship and when it started, and I guess just what sort of your week to week looks like over the course of the next few months being based in Portugal with Tony?
Yeah, it's been awesome to kind of learn to drive even further with him. My original mentor was Eric Ribier, who is one of the biggest legends at driving at Nazare. So I had a lot of good coaching, a lot of stern words, but I think that definitely helped me to learn to drive quicker. Like I had no choice but to figure it out, and he was incredible with me. And then passed onto Tony. He was training with Maya for the contest actually at the beginning of last season, and she's been incredible with me since the day I arrived there, and has always said to me how important the driving is. And she actually took me out the first season and jumped off the ski and was like, "Okay, come get me." And I was like, "Oh my God, Maya has just jumped off the ski and now I have to go and get her." But it was all these little moments which have all added up to me being ready to, surf with Tony in the contest. And we're, not how we wanted it to go last year, but learning for both him and I. And we're so excited to just start the season together. And it's time in the water. You need to know each other. You need to be able to spot when somebody's, maybe even feeling a bit anxious, or if they don't want to go on a wave, or you start to learn what kind of waves they like, and you're having to think of those things. So just spending time together and really kind of bonding over, big waves, I guess, will be really cool. But every day in the water, it'll be him, and I love just long days out there. So it's kind of perfect.
Very cool. We're going to take a quick break to get a word in from our sponsors. And when we come back, we are going to return with Laura Crane to find out where she came from. All right, welcome back to the lineup. I am Dave Prodan here with the UK's Laura Crane. Laura, you mentioned and we've discussed it a little bit, I guess, but this iteration of you as a professional surfer isn't the first iteration. You had an approach when you were younger. But give us a little bit of background. Like, where did you come from? Like, what was family life like? How did you get involved in surfing? And just those first sort of stepping stones towards what I guess you would have considered like a professional surfing career at the time.
My brother and I were actually born in Bristol, so we were city kids growing up. My parents moved down to North Devon, which is on the southwest coast of England, when I was around 6. My dad just fell in love with surfing, and that was it. Like, the family, we all moved down, and me and my brother naturally just kind of fell into, I guess, a more outdoor lifestyle. We did loads of sports, from like motocross to like surf lifesaving, and I think surfing for me personally was the one that I just got super obsessed with from really, really young. And by the age of 12, I got sponsored by Billabong, and I won the first British Nationals and started to kind of spread my wings in the world, traveling, doing the Pro Juniors in the summer, and just all the things I had kind of dreamed of when I was like 7 or 8 was really happening for me. So it was incredible. And to be from the UK and have these kind of opportunities I was getting were, even to my careers advisor, very, very surprising. So it was nice to not feel like my dreams were as crazy as I had once thought, and to have the support of brands and to have be able to do those contests that I did when I was younger and do a few QSs was amazing. And then kind of the whole social media era started, and women surfing took a real different route to kind of where I thought I was going to go. And I grew up being a young girl that just loved like adrenaline and jumping out of trees and wanting to be strong and do whatever the boys were doing. And the surf industry back then was not really accommodating to that stuff. It was I think a time where we were seen as great marketing for bikinis, and that was tough. It really, really took a toll on my mental health. For 15 years I was still kind of within the surf industry to some degree, and it was 90% modeling. And I think that at some point it really, really hit me, and I felt totally lost and didn't really know who Laura was outside of the things I was doing. And I had to step away from surfing. I'd struggled with an eating disorder for like 6 years at that point, and I think I was ready just to see who that little girl was meant to be or whatever it was. But yeah, it was a interesting transition from that point out for sure.
Yeah, and you know, we've had surfers similarly aged like talk about that period of time in the surf industry, particularly with social media hitting, and it's not just unique to surfing, but you know, across society, and it's so much pressure that goes into investing in a curated digital identity. And I'm curious, you know, on the other side of that, like what your relationship is to social media as well, because some people are just like, I don't want anything to do with it, or, you know, I appreciate it. I see it more as a tool as opposed to like the totality of who I am as a person. Like, what is your take on it today, especially through the prism of what you've had to kind of endure?
Definitely that realization for me that, you know, growing up, my value to the world was my physical ability, that I, you know, wasn't very academic at school. So for me, that sport and physical power was something I was really proud of. And I think to have that almost taken away in some senses and be kind of mirrored back to me and told that my value was just, you know, the ability to market bikinis and shoot photos and get likes on Instagram. You know, you're being told this by people that you idolize and you want to, you know, impress them. And I think you're at such a vulnerable age of like 15 when all this was kind of coming into play, that you do it. You do it. And I think there isn't a lot of change in the young girls, in the essence of, you know, like I have friends with like young daughters even that are already feeling pressure to do these certain things that I felt pressure to back then. So, you know, within sport, it's definitely had a huge shift, but in the real life, it's, you know, pretty scary, I think. But for me personally now, it's just trying to be what I needed to see at 15. And I think, yeah, I mean, the world has come on mountains, but I think there's still so far to go. And I hope by me sharing my story and being as authentic as I possibly can for myself, but also, yeah, for like young girls coming up, I want them to feel like they can just chase their dreams blindly and just have it all.
Yeah, I mean, even, you know, I'm 42. I've been on tour for 20 years with the ASP WSL. And, you know, I'll talk to people like Mick Fanning. He's like maybe a couple of years older than me, but like he is emphatic about like, I don't know how, he's like, I don't think I would have survived if smartphones and social media existed when I was coming up. Because especially if you're a teenager or, you know, early 20s, you're a young adult, like you're still figuring out who you are. You should be allowed to make mistakes, but so much of it is just under this microscope these days. And, you know, when you hear someone like Mick, who at mid-40s seems relatively well put together as like a human being, and he's just admitting like, I wouldn't have survived. And it's something, as you pointed out, like you're seeing it in your friends' kids now, and it hasn't gone away. And I don't know. I mean, if you've given any thought to that on the whole, like, oh man, if I had come up at a different time, I wouldn't have had to deal with this at all.
I mean, for sure. And that's it's interesting to think that those guys think that they couldn't do what we're doing now, because I also think for them, back then to have like found sponsors. And I remember when I first started surfing, you had to get into mags, like you had to get into a magazine, you had to try to get a front cover, then, you know, or a couple of page spread and something, so you got your bonus at the end of the year. And, you know, I can imagine Mick Fanning was on probably a pretty different deal to me, but like you still had to be relevant and you still had to tap into the media. For women, for sure, social media has been an incredible tool. It's definitely, you know, sucked the living life out of some of us for a certain period of time, but we have also had our own platform to, you know, shout and scream about things that we think are unfair. And I mean, the sport has grown, and I think we had to create, in some senses, our own audience and prove to brands that the world wants to see female athletes doing sport. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's one of those ones you really have to understand. And for me, it's been one of my like biggest backbreakers, but it's also for sure been one of my biggest blessings. And I'm really grateful for now, you know, the group of people that I have that follow me on social are some of my biggest supporters through everything. So yeah, I can't say it's good, I can't say it's bad, but it's got purpose for sure. It's just it's a tricky beast.
Yeah, and not to lionize like the pre-social media surf industry either. That was hardly like a bastion of good behavior. But there's a little bit of like the I imagine too, just hearing you talk so eloquently about it, like the Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message in a way, right? Because early social media on Instagram was effectively just pictures, right? It's not a whole lot of storytelling, and you know, it's almost like that kind of like how do I want to put it, like the like overly sexualized, that's not even a word, but you know, like leaning into like the sexiness of women from the advertising age, but almost on steroids, right? Because early social media is just like photos everywhere. It's now evolved with YouTube and even these other social media platforms to where that was so much for so long that it's all about storytelling now. And that in a way lends itself more to substance, which is kind of the corner that you occupy both with your background and your authentic interests and actually what you go out and achieve kind of week in and week out.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's easy with a flat picture in a magazine to see just what you see, which is often not the most handy thing, I think, with the media. But yeah, that's again what I say with social media. All of a sudden, after taking some time out of professional surfing, whatever it was back then for me, I spent some time in TV, and I really thought that was where I was meant to go. I had been told that my only value to the world was the physical appearance, so TV would be a perfect career for me, I thought, and it wasn't. But I definitely learned a lot about marketing and how important it is to tell your story, but in like the right way. And I was seeing so many people around me, celebrities and, you know, people in London just like make these really crazy kind of almost decisions with their career, and it all just blow up in their face. So I definitely was really kind of like thrown into that media world. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about where the media has gone for surfing, because by everyone telling their story, we're not just surf bums, how everyone kind of perceived us like 15 years ago, whatever. We're athletes and we're people with stories. And that's why it's now, you know, such a mainstream sport. You've got brands coming in from all different directions wanting a piece of surfing, which I think, you know, for us athletes is incredible. It's not a sport that we have ever had, you know, the most written about deals in the world. So I think for surfing as a whole, like for us individually to have our own platform to talk on and to share our stories and the things we're passionate about, it makes us real people, I think.
Yeah. Coming back from stepping away from kind of the first volume of the professional surfing career, you came back and feels like you've gravitated and obviously found a lot of success in the big wave arena. Was that something that was present before, or does it feel like almost two different sports when you look at kind of both chapters of your career at this point? Yes,
definitely always been a part of me. Even when I was a grom, like, I just loved challenge. It's something I've always just really kind of got a kick out of in any form of sport, but especially surfing. I think the first time I ever went to Hawaii with Billabong, I was actually 15. And I remember like ordering like a load of guns and like these, you know, paddle boards that I was going to surf like all these big waves on. I was so excited, and I'd watch videos and to get there and to be told that I was just going to, you know, be shooting bikinis pretty much in a lagoon it's tough. Like, it was a really tough pill to swallow. And I think then a couple of years later, I started to see Justine and Maya were like slowly kind of like getting into it. And I remember them like leaving and like surfing like this outer reef, like on the North Shore, and always thinking like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I hope one day I can do that. And yeah, I mean, how lucky I was to have that representation. Imagine for those girls, they had, you know, the Kiara Kennedys and stuff, and the ones before them, they really had no one to look at. So I'm lucky that I even had them to kind of aspire to be, for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but it's fully different, completely different. I mean, it's my dream. Like, I'm actually living it. Before, it was just kind of doing a few QSs and kind of doing what I thought the industry wanted me to do or what I should do, rather than, you know, this time, the first time I went down to Nazare, I literally put all my life savings into buying my own jet ski, and I had no sponsors, and no one was really, I think, even expecting me to come back on to that scene or ever. So it was definitely, yeah, just hugely different. There was this, I think, underlying feeling of respect that I had from everyone, which I never felt I'd really had before. I was in my wetsuit with my impact vest on, my flotation, like, you look like a little ninja turtle, but that for me was special because I knew that people were really respecting what I was doing on the wave rather than anything else, and that was totally the focus. So that for me personally has been huge, just to have respect from an industry that I had tried so hard to gain it from, and finally just for following what I really wanted. So yeah, it's been different.
Yeah, and it feels like in 2025, for a variety of reasons, like the ambassador sponsor relationships change. It's changed for the brands that have been around for a long time. It's changed for emerging brands, and like having that real genuine relationship, having the storytelling component associated makes so much more sense for both sides, especially for fans as well. And you know, this is an episode brought to us by Dryrobe. It's a product that I'm fortunate to use. My kids use it. They basically live in them. I haven't seen them eat a breakfast without their Dryrobes on for several years at this point. And that's been a partner of yours for several years too. And I'm curious, like, how did that relationship come into being, especially after that first volume of your professional surfing career and coming back to it? And how different is that kind of a relationship to your previous ones?
It's actually a really nice story. Dryrobe, I will be a champion of that brand till the day I am not here, because the guy that started, Gideon, absolute legend, he is one of our next door neighbors, and he started Dryrobe when I was around, I think, like 14, with a robe that looks pretty similar to the one behind you. It was a bit shinier. I remember it having like this almost like leathery feel. And funny enough, Cotty and I did the first photo shoot for him. He was like, I'll give you a robe, I just need to get some pictures. And we were like, oh my God, amazing. We grew up in the UK. To have a robe like that, I was like, I would do anything for that robe. So that is, yeah, I've been with Dryrobe pretty much since the first day, and they're incredible. The product is obviously just doesn't even need to be talked about. If you've had one, you know that it's the most versatile piece of kit. I think I've slept on mine, slept under mine. I've used it as board socks and a million things, as well as keeping warm. But yeah, they're a real cool brand, and they support actual athletes and specifically surfers that are really trying to do their thing, and they've always got time to listen, and yeah, they really are who they are. So it's a pleasure to be with them. Stoked that they're part of this today as well. So yeah, big up Dryrobe.
Good people too. I mean, when they came back, we've been working with them for a few years. They're like, oh, do you need, we'll get you the new robe. And I'm like, well, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but like the one we have from like a few years ago still works perfect. And they're like, well, you need the new one with the new logo. But that's the other challenge, right? Where it's like the stuff works so well, it's so durable that it's like, oh man, maybe you make a cheaper product, it just makes more sales or something. But
they're all about the sustainability. They've got to make a good product that lasts forever though.
100%. I mean, do you use anything other than the robes? They got the changing mats, they got the boots. Like, what's your kit when you go to Nazare?
Yeah, for sure. The robes are like honestly the most used item I think in the whole of that harbour. Like everyone has a dry robe. It's 6 a.m. when it's dark in the harbour. You want your dry robe. But yeah, like the boots, pretty much everything. The seat covers, they're probably my favourite actually.
Right.
Because the amount of car seats I've ruined without using one of those.
I never thought I'd be a changing mat guy, and now that like I have to squeeze my surf sessions in between like adulting responsibilities, I'm like, I don't know how I lived without this thing. This is outstanding. And then my son's on the water polo team. I think he's probably moved more dry robes than like most CT surfers would have at this point. Every other parent on the deck is like, what is that thing? So good brand. They're fortunate to have you. We're fortunate that they're partnering with us on this episode. On that note, we're going to take one more quick break to get a word in from our partners. And when we come back, we'll wrap it up with Laura Crane. All right, we're back. This is the lineup. I'm Dave Prodan here with the UK's Laura Crane. Laura, it's been so nice just getting your perspective on all things surfing and hearing your backstory. And, you know, one of the things that makes you stand out, I think, in a lot of ways is you're so well-spoken and you're so candid about the mental health challenges that you've had to navigate throughout your career. And I'm curious, like in 2025, like how do you balance maybe opportunities where you could mentor or speak to small groups about that and help people with just the demands of training and being a big wave surfer?
Definitely. I guess it goes back to what we're saying about the storytelling. For me, I grew up in this time of social media and having to manage it and manage my mental health. And I think the one amazing thing is it's really taught me how to, I think, be able to just manage like almost manage the expectation of how much access people get to you, which is something that has been a real fine line for me in a lot of moments. And what I really found is just being myself. And, you know, I've grown up on social media, so there's an element of me that is like, well, if you're gonna not really be you on social media, at some point, there's going to be a big downfall and you're going to hurt yourself again. Whether that's mental health or having a burnout physically. So for me, it's been, like at this point, I'm just me and I will share as much as I can with the hope that it'll help somebody not go through what I've been through. I ended up actually starting a business while I was in recovery for my eating disorder, which is an ocean-based wellness retreat company. And we literally just get people together to learn about all the tools I had kind of found through cold water immersions and breath work and all the kind of things that then I now use for big wave surfing and just giving women more confidence, whether it's in the water, out of the water. So that's kind of the on the ground thing. We run them in the Maldives and in Nicaragua and a couple in the UK too. But it's hard to be able to kind of, I guess, you know, the formulas that we learn as athletes to be able to really share that with people, that the amount of people that ask me for my workout routines and all those things, and there just isn't, as a human, enough time to film everything that you do. And I try my best. But yeah, we're at the moment actually coming up with a really cool program from, I think, the middle of next year, which is all about kind of fear and the ability to use your fear to actually kind of get closer to your goals rather than to be a barrier between them. So hopefully that will be able to like speak to loads of people and just help. I would love to be able to, you know, through my journey, help somebody else have it a little easier.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I mean, you can see that across all sports, right? Because being an elite level athlete, it can oftentimes be a fairly selfish pursuit, especially on your way up. But the ones that sustain and the ones that make the biggest impact are the ones that find kind of a why that is outside of them, right? For why they do the thing you're doing. And it sounds like you're really thriving in that space, just hearing you talk about it.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. I think that's all we can do. But for sure, I love to surf. It's one of my, forever passions. But I also love to create and to share and to build community and all of those things are definitely passions too.
Very cool. Well, before you go, we did put out a feeler for questions at the Lineup Pod on Instagram. We got a lot back for you, actually. We got a lot of people interested in you. We've whittled it down to 3. The first question is from @Tony Tayesh, who asks, who does she look to for inspiration?
I think all the women that came before me, and at this point, all the women that are, coming up after me. It's incredible to see what the young Groms are doing, like on tour, and even hopefully in Nazare. I'm definitely trying to conjure up a few of the girl Groms and for the future. But I think to see the progression in women surfing, it's all down to who came before us and them paving the way. So for me, Maya was one of, my biggest inspirations arriving to Nazare, and still is. Just, I think in that same way, the way she's really fought for, the title that she got, she had to fight for them to even give a female title. And she was there as the only female, and we're there as definitely a minority. So I can only imagine what it was like for her back then. So the women and Justine and Michelle, everyone's out there just charging so hard at Nazare. Those girls that they're my peers now, which is amazing. But the women that I get to do this with, they are legends.
Second question is from @TooCool from Megan, who asks, what was the most beautiful moment you've ever had at Nazare?
I think it was the first season still. The first proper big wave I had. And I remember coming off the back of it, and my mentor and coach, Eric, he was screaming, super happy. And he's a tough coach. And I just remember him giving me this huge hug and sending me back to the harbour. And the drive back to the harbour on the jet ski, I was alone, just screaming with just pure joy, because I had done it. I had set this crazy goal for myself, and I had actually done it. And I think from that moment, I could have signed off the Nazare thing and never gone back. But it has this pretty addictive thing about it.
Last question from @TreeHatJ, who asks, you've been very open about your mental health journey. What's a practice that you do daily that keeps you in a good headspace?
It's honestly the most simple one, and I think it's probably the hardest one that I struggle with, and it's to just not touch my phone in the morning. Get up, I have this infrared light that's outside my bedroom, and all I've got to do is get in front of it and meditate is the plan. 10 minutes before I look at my phone, before I do anything. And the days I do that, I feel like I could take over the world. I can smash through my to-do list. I will go training. I will keep all the promises I made to myself, because I made that first promise. If I don't do that and I just scroll for 10 minutes before I even put my feet on the floor, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be a good day. And I've made that choice within the first 2 seconds of my morning. So that is honestly probably the most simple one, but the most effective, to do something for you before you get on the phone.
Great advice. Thank you to everyone that wrote in at the Lineup Pod. We're now down to our final segment. This is the lightning round. So these are 10 questions for you to answer as quickly as you can.
Okay, I'll do my best.
If you could only have one board set up for the rest of your life, single fin, twin fin, thruster, quad bonzer, or finless, which would you choose?
I'm a thruster through and through, forever.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
burrito, or pizza?
Pizza. I thought about it.
Last book you read?
The last book I read was The Pilgrimage. I literally just finished it like 2 days ago. And I am dyslexic. It took me a while, but I did get through it.
The best surf film ever?
Leave a Message.
What is one wave you never have to go back to?
Ooh. Oh, what's the name of it? I've even forgotten the name. It was that bad. It was in El Salvador, Sunzal or something like that. I think it's like just up from Punta Roca, which is really good. Go there, don't go to Sunzal. That thing was terrible.
If you only get to surf one wave for the rest of your life, and it could be any wave, you can dreamcast it, perfect conditions, just you and your friends, which wave would it be?
I think it'd have to be Nazare, because at least on like a small day, you can still get barrels. You still have to be like a fun beach break in the summer, and then you can also get like huge bombs. Versatile.
Best person to share a lineup with?
My brother, because I can drop in on him.
Worst person to share a lineup with?
My brother, because he drops in on me.
All right, last one. Finish this sentence. I will next achieve a state of happiness by...
I was going to do yin yoga before I went to bed, and now I've said that I'm really going to have to do it, so I'm going to say it and I'm going to do it.
Wonderful. Laura Crane, hey, congratulations on everything you've achieved already. And thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for being candid. Thank you so much for the impact you make on the surfing community. And I can't wait to see what you do this winter. Good luck in Portugal.
Thank you. Me too. It has been great to speak to you.